Howdy, folks. This week in the FinOps for Finance podcast, I'm going to go through the second half of the FinOps domains, the areas where we cover how we actually do FinOps. So today I'm going to cover cloud rate optimization, cloud usage optimization, and organizational alignment. So first up, we have cloud rate optimization. So if you think about it in its simplest terms, anything you buy, it's a function of the price you pay and the amount you pay for it. So cloud rate optimization is making sure you pay the best price possible for all the units of cloud that you use. So what we look at in terms of the capabilities and the kind of the how of how we do FinOps underneath it, the first is the intersection of FinOps and sustainability, which to be honest, the website has this listed there. I don't really think it belongs here because if you pay less for a machine, you're still running the same amount of machines and producing the same amount of carbon. So I'm going to kind of gloss over this one. This is more of a usage optimization than a rate optimization. But for completeness, I wanted to put it here. But the first one that really hits home with the rate optimization is the managing commitment based discounts. So this is your reserved instances, your savings plans, convertible reserved instances, CODs, committed use discounts, all these instruments that the cloud providers give you, which you can purchase in different ways. You can buy a 1 year or a 3 year. You can pay for it upfront, no upfront or partial upfront. So as a FinOps function, your job is to decide among these options what commitments you use, what type of workloads you use those commitments to cover. So I could go on about this for weeks. This is pretty much what I do all day. But effectively what you're trying to do is maximize the coverage that you're covering most of your on-demand while maintaining high utilization, which is you want all your commitments to be used fully, because if they're not being used, you're still going to be charged for the commitment, plus you're going to be charged for the workload that they're not covering. So you get double hits. So it's really important to manage both your utilization and your coverage. Third up, then we have the analysis and the showback. So within the cloud, and I'm sure I've mentioned this before, when you're billed, there's 8,760 hours in a year, in a billing year. So the sooner you optimize your cost, so the sooner you get those commitments layered on top of your on-demand, saving 50, 60, 70% off your rate, the sooner you get those implemented, the sooner you get the benefits. Often this is the lowest hanging fruit with any FinOps practice when it's starting. You get the most immediate impact by getting these commitments up and running and reducing that rate, and being able to show that straight away gets buy-in from the business and from the BUs to drive more initiatives. So that's that one. Usage optimization then is the other side of that formula, with the rate multiplied by the usage. So if we use less of it, our bill will be lower because there's less of it to charge for. And here the intersection of cloud, FinOps, and sustainability is a lot tighter ingrained, because if we're shutting down machines we don't need, using smaller machines that are required for workloads rather than using bigger necessary machines, that will produce less carbon, which will be better for the planet, which will help drive our sustainability goals. And there's a practice called Green Ops, and the FinOps Foundation is a working group that deals more into it. So it's got some really good resource if you want to learn more about that, as it's a hot topic. But usage optimization links in with, like, it's good for the bill, it's good for the planet. So it's an easy sell. That one. Another element of usage optimization is workload management and automation. So an example of this is if your engineers have a workload running in their development or test environment, and the engineer is only in if they're working Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, well, there should be no reason why those machines are running outside of office hours if there's no one going to be working on those environments. So what you can do is the engineering team can set a function to just switch those off when they log off. And that way you're not paying for the usage out of hours while no one's actually using the machine. So in the usage optimization sphere or domain, there's a lot more interaction between the FinOps and the engineering side, because the FinOps practitioner wouldn't have an understanding of the architecture or infrastructure that the engineer does. So they can't go in, and the FinOps person can't go in and start switching off machines because it might impact the performance of the application. So they need to influence and have those discussions with the engineering teams to try and drive better outcomes. The next is resource utilization and efficiency. So this is effectively right sizing is what it boils down to. So this is where you've got the right size of machine for the right side of workload. So if you have a workload that requires an M5 large and you're running it on an M5 4X large, and this is a type of AWS machine, well, you just need to instead of paying for that bigger box, you just pay for a smaller box. So you're saving in terms of your efficiency because you're paying for that smaller box, which is cheaper. A lot of the third-party applications that your business might have, they'll have recommendations about specification of the types of machines and settings that they want their application to run on. Oftentimes there's an element of headroom built into that. So if the engineering team can have a look at that, there might be an opportunity to just bring those machines that those third-party applications are running on, just bring them down. And that can save quite a bit of money. Next, we have the onboarding of workloads. So you'll hear a lot about private cloud, your own data center moving into the public cloud, and you'll hear this term lift and shift. Effectively, what that is they've taken the infrastructure and architecture that was in our own data center and they've moved it onto the public cloud. What you do by doing this is you bring any inefficiencies or any issues that were there on-prem, you're bringing them into the public cloud. And then after a while, people are like, I thought we'd save loads of money on the cloud, but you won't. It's rubbish in, rubbish out. So you need to have a process in place whereby you onboard those workloads correctly. So you don't just take all the applications, move them across, you do an audit of them and you adapt them to the scalability of the cloud. And by making those changes as you move them, it creates a lot more efficiencies quicker rather than it's a harder work. You won't get to migrate to the cloud as quickly, but it's worth it in the long run, because if you fix it when it's going in, you don't have to try and unpick it as it's running in the cloud. Then we have the data analysis and showback, which as we mentioned with all this stuff, like getting this feedback loop shortened makes a massive difference, because if we connect with the engineering team, ask them to make an improvement, if they make that improvement and we can show them the next week or a couple of days that, look, your costs have gone down because of these changes you've implemented, that'll drive more buy-in to do further optimization efforts, especially the fact that this requires close collaboration between FinOps and engineering. So that's a really important one for this phase. Then we have organizational alignment. Here, there's a lot. There's a lot of pieces on the website, but most of these kind of effectively boil down to, we have, with any IT system, you have people, you have processes, and you have technology. So you have the technology in terms of the cloud, which gives us really good granular visibility into what we're actually using. We have we're building the processes within FinOps to do these things. So our crawl, walk, run, our different capabilities, we're implementing all that. So we have a structure in place to deal with the cloud and optimize and operate it. But the hardest part of any of this is the people element, because we have to keep all the FinOps personas engaged and build that culture of collaboration and continuous improvement to drive the efficiencies, because the FinOps function can't do it on their own. By building that education and that transparency and that trust across the organization, it's that old phrase that a rising tide lifts all boats. By raising the education, people know what's expected of them. They've got more accountability, so they automatically raise the education, and it just becomes self-fulfilling. And it's a two-way street as well. It's not just FinOps dictating to engineers. The FinOps team needs to understand their business's architecture as well, and their engineering team. They don't need to go down to the granular level of understanding of the infrastructure. But if the team says that certain applications can't be moved because of a certain reason, they need to take that on board with any future conversations that they have. So it's a two-way street. The one kind of unique, the one additional one that I will call out here is the cloud policy and governance. So this is, I suppose, has to be driven by leadership, and this is to get your tagging and your ownership of resources aligned, so that when a new machine is spun up or when a new account is set up, that all the attributes or the metadata related to that is in place, so that when we look at our cloud bill, we can track it back to the relevant person. And it, because if it's not tagged correctly, we won't be able to find out who we need to talk to if something goes awry, or if something's going well. We need to understand. We need to know who to speak to. So getting that governance in place and that policy established is vital. So domains part 2. So to recap, what we covered is the rate optimization, the usage optimization, and we covered the organizational alignment. So paying less, using less, and getting the people on board is effectively what it boils down to. Next week, what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about the actual exam itself, how it's structured, how to book onto it, any additional resources that that might be out there as well. So until then, take care, like, comment, subscribe, all that sort of good stuff. Tell a friend, and I'll chat to you all soon. Cheers.